Good morning everyone, this is Meg at Chasing Retro, and this will be a process video, very informal. I don't have a script or anything. I'm just going to be starting to put together pages in the 8 Christmas junk journals that I'm making. They are all now reserved. I think I mentioned that yesterday, but I wanted to make sure. They're reserved, and if you are on the backup list, and if you have emailed me, you are on the backup list if one becomes available. But I wanted to show you kind of how I start out. Number one, I wait until I have a whole day without anyone else here at the house so I can take over the dining room table. And I put all of them, sort of stand them up in a row. I try to do largest to smallest, but I don't think I have that set up quite the right way this time, but that's okay. Actually, I think, have them set up largest number of signatures to the smallest number of signatures. And then I just start getting pages and putting them in front of each journal. And then after I do that, I go one at a time, and I take each stack over to my crafting desk and cut if I need to trim them down, or score and fold if I'm cutting, making a larger page, try to fit into a smaller journal. And also that's when I do my paper hinging if I need to extend pages. And then I'll fold them all, bring them back over, put them in the journal, and then make a stack or line them up in a tighter fashion off of the dining room table so we can eat dinner. That's usually what I try to do, and I try to do it all within one day. So by that evening, our dining room table is clear again. We'll see if I can make this work, because today is also voting day, and I have to pause and go do that somewhere in the middle. But I have a couple of things that I wanted to show y'all, just so you can see my thought process and how I stay organized when I do more than one journal at a time. And I really have to do this when I do one journal, but absolutely when I do more than one, and especially a large number like 8. The very first thing that I do after I put the spines on and know exactly how big the journal is going to be, I make a list of all of the journals, give them sort of a nickname, and then I write down how many signatures, and like this one is a curved spine, so I made note of that. And then I measure the distance from the spine to where I want the page to end, not necessarily the edge of the hardcover, because that would mean that the pages would extend out once you add lace or whatever. How far I want the pages to extend, so I have allowance for lace and other things on the edge. And then how tall I want the pages to be. You don't want to put pages in that are exactly the height of the hardback, because number one, if you don't get them exactly straight when you fold them, they will sort of pop out of the top or bottom of the book, and the book won't sit flat if you wanted to set the book up. So I always give myself about 1/4 of an inch on top and bottom, or sometimes even as little as 1/8 of an inch, just enough so you can float the pages in the middle between the top and the bottom of the hardcover. And that goes for softcover too. Then in parentheses, to remind myself that though this is the folded sheet size, this is what I need to cut the page to. So when it is folded, it will be this. Sometimes when I just wrote this, I would accidentally, when I wasn't thinking about it, just going through the motions, cut the page to this. And obviously that's not right. So I have the cut to page. This though, this side of the paper, when I'm making pockets, without having to go to the journal and remeasure and remember how wide each page is, I can just look at this. And I usually tape this page in front of me, either on my lampshade or somewhere, so that I don't have to get up and go look for it when I'm making things. Okay, so that's the first thing that I make. Another thing that I have next to me at all times is this. This is my junk journal checklist. Now, I have a link in my description box to my Ko-fi shop. This printable or this digital is available in my Ko-fi shop if you would like to have this junk journal checklist. This is the old version. I cleaned it up. I think I did this in an old version of Excel or something, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I cleaned it up and made it a little prettier, and I think this is the version that's in my Ko-fi shop. But I still hold on to this for some reason. I think I'm sentimental about it. You can see how many times I've restapled it because I've ripped the first page off several times. But this just helps me remember all the different types of pages that I can add to a journal, all the different decorations I can add to each page, other things to put in, things to sew before I sew in the signatures. This is very important. I always refer to this before I sew the signatures in. And then here's a list of all the different pockets I could make. So like I said, this is in my Ko-fi shop if you are interested, if you haven't snagged this already. So I always have that nearby, but something that I tried new this time, and I cannot believe it's taken me 4 years to do this. I made a junk journal recipe, and I'm going to share it with you guys. It's not secret or anything. It did take me some sitting down and finagling and a little bit of math to make things work out, but I wanted to share it with you. Now, I know not everybody puts the same number of pages in each signature. Some people would look at how many I put in my signatures and think that's too much. And maybe it is if you want your book to sit completely flat. But I found that a lot of times the people who get my journals either don't mind that the book is not completely flat, or they aren't writing in it. They're just wanting the journal as a keepsake or something to sit on a shelf and look at. So I like to make my journals chunky and thick and full and just brimming with things. So typically I do 15 pages in each signature if it's a multi-signature book, 15 to 17 depending on how thick the pages are. And then for single signature soft cover, I like to make them swell up. So I'll do 17 in a one signature journal. So I sat down and I did a little recipe. Maybe I can type this up and put this in my Ko-fi shop as well if that would be interesting to anyone. Let me know. But I didn't put it in order, but 1 signature journals, 2 signature journals, and 3 signature journals. And I did this because every time I would start a new project, I would get so overwhelmed with, oh, I don't remember how many, I've got this stack of pages in front of this journal, but I don't know, is it too book page heavy? Is it too writing page heavy? All I needed to do is to sit down and do this, and I never have. So in general, this is what I like to put in my journals. And it allows me to remember that, oh, don't forget the doily, don't forget the paper sack, don't forget the envelope sewn in. Things like that in the past, I would get to the end of a journal, have it sewn together, and realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to put this in. How could I have forgotten that? It's because I didn't make a recipe. So this is just a framework. Like I said, I will share this with you guys if you're interested. I haven't done one for four signature journals, and of course you can go up from there. But these are the 3 sizes that I do most often. So I'll have this sitting here in front of me too to help me know how many writing pages I still need to put in each stack. How many have I gotten wrapping paper in each stack? And then I'll pull it back out again once I have my stacks with the totals, and I'll separate them into first and second signature. All right, so I'm going to start with the largest one, the 3 signature, because that is the one that I really want to get moving on. And this is one that I'm making for a friend. So this is the interior pages of this book, Night Before Christmas. And it's the Corinne Malvern version, but it's it's not the My Little Golden version. It's Marigold Press. So I guess more than one company bought the rights to her art. So I will be using she doesn't really want all the pages in her journal, but she does want some. So I will be using 1 or 2 pages from this, and then I will be gathering other pages from my other books and piecing them together. Some will be sideways, folded sideways, and some will be straight up and down, you know, hinged with, I really like to do paper hinges, and I keep my offcut strips when I trim pages. I keep them in a box for that purpose, so I can just grab one, fold it, and I have a hinge. I know some people like to do fabric hinges, and I've done that in the past too. I just find that takes longer because I don't keep ready-made scraps of fabric in a perfect strip usually. So I'm going to pause the video here, and then I'm going to come back once I have my pile of pages ready for this first journal, and I'll show you how I get them prepared. All right, it is about 2.5 hours later. I got all the papers pulled. I started some bread to go with our soup for dinner, and I ate a little bit of lunch, so I'm back. Okay, I also amended this just a little bit. I forgot to figure out where I can add in stationery and wallpaper, because those are 2 very important types of papers. And I also need to specify under the writing pages that it can be like digitals that you can print that have a faint background, so you can still write over them. I need to note that just so I will remember, but of course anyone else who gets this recipe will know that that's an option, and I'll show examples of that too. So this is the 3 signature journal, and here is signature 1 right here. So I have all of these things that are represented in this stack, and then also in front of me are my measurements that I need to cut the papers to, or no, they cannot be any wider than this, or taller than this, I should say. Some of them will be smaller. I don't like all my pages uniform in a journal, and I know a lot of y'all don't either. So as I go along, I'm going to be using this cutting mat as my gauge to make sure I'm not going over. Sometimes I'll fold things in if they're too long. Sometimes I'll cut them off. Sometimes I'll fold them up and make a pocket if they're too tall. I don't know that that's going to be an issue with this journal though, because it is a very tall book. Okay, so we have our greeting card. This can just be as it is. Don't have to do anything with it because it is less than 15.5 wide and less than 10 3/4 tall. So I will put this over here. Oh, I also forgot to show you that before I started the video, I got some offcut strips ready out of my offcut box that I can use as hinges, and I also grabbed a sheet of white and red plain paper that I can use as a hinge as well, and I'll just cut those into about 1-inch pieces as I need them. All right, let me put my glasses back on. All right, so the first thing after the greeting card on the list, I'm kind of going backwards because I stacked them going down the list. Now I'm going back. Paper sack. So I have this one, and this is one of the ones that has a flat bottom to it, but that's okay. I'm just going to cut the end off so that the other end will be open. Okay, sometimes these little paper bags get caught in the blade. All right, so now that I have it cut off, we have fully open, and so I can fold it to match the other side. There's little pieces of paper doily all over the place because when I pulled it out of the bag, some of the punches were loose and it went all over the rug. I'll have to vacuum later. So here we go. We have a paper sack ready. Next. I stacked them like this as I went along to keep them separate. This is going to count as one writing paper instead of folding it because I don't have any that long, at least not pretty papers. I do ledger that long, but not this. These are just printed digitals. that are light enough or not quite as busy enough that you can easily write over them, or you could put a picture or whatever you would like to do. But I wanted to have a little bit of color. So we're going to hinge this, but first we need to make sure it will fit in the journal as it is. Well, this 8.5 by 11. So of course, it will need to be trimmed just a little bit because the book is only 7 3/4, but it's going to fit underneath. Nope, I'm going to have to cut a little bit off. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it at the same time. My trimmer does better if I do 2 pages at a time. I don't know about y'all's. So let's do 7 3/4 wide. And look, I've got more hinged pages if I want some less wide hinges. And then 10 3/4. All right, so now we will hinge this. You can hinge on the inside or the outside, your pick. If you have 2 pages that have a really pretty image or text all the way to the edge, you'll want to hinge on the outside. What am I going to choose? How about this Kool-Aid dye paper? It's very mild. It's not going to interfere or be over. Oh, you know what? It's not long enough. Let's try that again. I need a 12 longer piece. Look at this. This is a matte page. So I'll fold this in half. Actually, I don't think I need it to be quite that wide. I usually use a wider hinge if the pages are very thick, but this one's not that bad. So some people use their scoreboard to do this. I just kind of eyeball it. So I didn't do it very straight, but we're going to cut that part off so it doesn't really matter. And honestly, I normally just use a water-based thin glue for this. I don't waste my Fabri-Tac on hinging. But sometimes hinges will make journals bulk up a little fast. If that happens, you can always alter your plans as you go and put in less pages per signature. That is just a very, very possible scenario when you are making large journals. You might just have to surrender how many pages you put in each signature to make it work. Okay, this is not ready to be folded yet. It said, wait, I'm not set yet. Sometimes I'll use a glue stick too, but if I don't plan to go back and sew over it again, I normally don't. I just don't trust glue sticks to be that permanent. Although I just bought a new kind. I bought Scotch brand permanent glue sticks. I've never tried theirs before. I was very unhappy with the Amazon brand, and I love the Avery brand, but their prices just keep going up and up and up, and I can't figure out why. So I was like, you know what? Per bottle, it's a little bit cheaper to get the Scotch, so I'm going to try it. I know some people love them. I'm almost out of this glue, and I've told myself when I'm out of it, I'm going to open up the art glitter glue that I've been holding on to and not opening for like 2 months now. Y'all have to tell me what kind of glue you use for hinging. Okay, this is ready to crease now. I often run out of workspace very quickly. when I'm doing journals. Very, very quickly. But it creases better if you put it directly on the mat. All right, there's a hinged page. Ready to go. I always make sure that it didn't glue to itself before I set it aside. All right, hinged page is ready. Now, the center of the first signature, according to the recipe that I came up with, is a center spread ideals image, and this is what I've chosen. I think it's really pretty. Oh, you can't see the whole thing. Yeah, just fully surrounded by ornaments and holly. So let's make sure that it will fit in our book. It needs to be no wider than 7 3/4. Yep. And no taller than 10 3/4. Need to trim off. Nope, we don't have to trim it at all. It is perfect. That's great news. All right, let's figure out which of these strips will fit. That works good, but you know what? It's gonna be blue, so I wonder if I should use a blue one. Yeah, let's use this one. It looks like we need to cut off just the end of it here. And it probably doesn't need to be this wide again. I'll trim it just a little bit. When you cut Kool-Aid dyed paper, it tends to leave little fibers. I know my blade is also getting dull, and that's part of the problem, but oh, look, on this side we have some doily patterns, so I'll fold it this way. All right, I'm gonna just do one at a time this time, so I don't rush the process. Let this one set before I put the other one on. I have on 2 sweaters today because I cannot get warm. I love thin sweaters, especially if I'm going to be doing junk journaling, because thick sweaters tend to get in my way, and they also tend to grab things on the edge of my desk and pull them down onto the floor. But thin sweaters are not as warm. But this one, I found this at a yard sale, church yard sale recently. It is wool and Angora, and it is thin, but it is warm. Like, I'm almost hot now. I need to invest in more like that. Although I do love a big chunky sweater. There's just something about that. All right, this is hinged. And I think that blue looks really nice. The center is always tricky if you do a center signature, because you don't want to have a gap, because that won't look good. But I think I got it close enough. There's this very small, like 1 millimeter gap, but that's okay. That's just the fold line. I can't help that. If you have a really pretty decorative paper or even fabric as a hinge, you could put that right here and have that as your center, and your strings for tying in the signature would just come through that. All right, so this is the center. I'll put it on the bottom of the stack so I'll remember that. And I'm just stacking things over here, just stacking them up. I'll take it over to the journal later. All right, we have another hinge, and this is just 2 pages that are 2 different colors of red. They won't be right next to each other, so it doesn't matter. I wanted some variation. And this is Michael's brand acid-free paper, and honestly, it's my favorite. Not only is it, the colors are just a good variety, the quality, the thickness of this paper is just unreal. All right, so I'm going to make sure this is the right width and length. Needs a little bit taken off. Now, I'm gonna do something different with this one. Didn't cut all the way through. Before I hinge these, I'm going to punch the edge because I want a decorative edge on one of these. Let's do this one. Let me go choose a punch real quick. Okay. All right. This page is ready for hinging. I got one little piece that needs to be trimmed off. And I believe I'm going to use one of these that I just cut off to hinge it so it will blend in better. I hope my dishwasher noise is not too distracting in the background. It is a loud dishwasher and very long running dishwasher. If there is an easier way to do this, y'all let me know. I feel like this is what takes me the longest when I make oversized journals or journals where I want the pages to be upright. Looks good. All right, another writing page. Now, not all my writing pages are going to be hinged. I want some to be smaller. So this is just an onion skin. You can see it's got the watermark, beautiful watermark in it. I'm just going to fold it. That's a writing page. This one too. This is actually a map. Not map. It's a sewing pattern. Not like a McCall's or Butterick. It was one of those large ones that came in the envelope that I guess you had to mail order. So I just kept the fold where it was, and I was going to see how long it was to see if I needed to cut it or would it be worth folding out. Okay. That would be a big fold, so I think I am going to trim it. How wide do I want to make it? That's the question. So 7 3/4 is all I have. So What if I do 6 1/4-ish? This is actually going to be 2 pages if I do it this way. So let me cut it into 2 separate. I can save it for another journal. Oh, it's one of those that the cutter does not like to cut. I don't know why sometimes this happens. I don't know if it's the grain of the paper or what, but it just refuses to cut without shredding. I know magazine pages are notorious for that, but all right, let's see if it'll let me do this. If I cut, okay, that's better. Weird. I'm gonna cut the bottom off too. So now we have another writing page, even though it's technically got some stuff on it, it's still cool. It's just another unusual, eclectic page to go in a journal for writing space. I think this is a true fit pattern, if y'all are familiar with those. All right, it's a little bit shabby, but okay. Writing page. Here's another writing page, and this is an oversized ledger, and it measures 16.5 by 11. So 15.5 is what I need. So let's just cut off this part, the part that says staples and the holes. Then we end up with 14 3/4 or so. Like I said, I know my blade is dull on my cutter, but sometimes, I don't care how sharp your blade is, some papers just do this. They get pulpy and don't want to cut well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it, fold it before I trim the other way, so it will fit in my trimmer. I also have my guillotine cutter on the table, so at some point I may go over there just to make things easier for me for cutting. Okay, so now it's too tall. I need to trim it down to 10 3/4. All right, writing page. All right, I am going to keep going with my hinges. I think I only have 2 more hinges to do, maybe 3. Oh, I don't know, I've lost track. Okay, this one is on my list. I said that we need some cardstock pages as well as just regular pages. So cardstock pages are just for more substantial weight, if you wanted to add a thicker pocket, double pocket, things like that. To, you know, it's hard to add pockets to thin pages if you're gonna put a tag in it. So I'm gonna piece these together, and they're oriented in a certain way, right side up. So I'm gonna keep that. And then this is from, I think this paper is from Hobby Lobby from last year. Hobby Lobby paper is almost always single-sided, so I always, if it's not already 8.5 by 11, if I can, I'll cut down a 12 by 12 to an 8.5 by 11, run it through the printer, and then use it for my projects. If I can't, if I need the full 12 by 12, I won't do that. But if it is already 8.5 by 11, I usually do that. So let me go ahead and trim this down. These are not the same size. That's funny. They're both Hobby Lobby. You could also, this is another option, if it wasn't oriented like this and you didn't mind it being sideways, you could score it here, glue this down to here and fold it over, and you would have a very long page that you could fold in as a pocket or a fold out or whatever. That's another option for you. But I want these to be right side up, so all right, these are ready to be hinged. And I think I'll put the hinge on the printed papers. Let's do, since that's sort of a light color, not long enough. Not long enough. Yeah, let's use one of these. Y'all probably hear my oven in a second. It will beep. It's preheating. I'm making baguettes. I got a baguette pan for Christmas a few years ago, and I love making baguettes. It's actually one of the easier breads to make, in my opinion. If you have a baguette pan. If you don't, maybe not. But I thought about, so my first newsletter went out yesterday. If you subscribe to my newsletter, that is, you received it, and check your email and check your spam if you didn't receive it. But I thought about, I didn't do it in this issue, but I thought about putting recipes in every now and then. I know some of you have expressed interest in like, how do I cook and also make journals? I'm doing pretty good with keeping up with the cooking. The cleaning, not so much. But with cooking, you know, I can set something going on the stove or in the oven and then come over here and work for a good long while it's doing its thing. But I'll be happy to share the baguette recipe if you guys would like it. Okay, well, I didn't get that quite right. It's gonna need to be trimmed. That's gonna bother me. I'm not gonna take it apart. I'll just trim. So now we have, this is not wanting to stay. There we go. Now this one has a little more of a gap in between it. I don't know why that happens sometimes. It's just hard sometimes to get it exactly lined up. But that's okay, because this is not the center spread. So that's our cardstock. And I have another cardstock page in my recipe for this first signature, and the one, so what I said here is one will be the first page, okay? I also want to do something that I saw another maker do on YouTube, so I'm trying to see how I can do this next one so it will allow me to do that. So the first page of a signature needs to be the full dimensions, in my opinion. You don't have to do it that way, but I feel like it holds everything in really well if the first page is, you know, the largest one to sort of suitcase all the other ones in. So because that's what I want to do, and I want this to be the first page, this one right here. When you open the journal, I want to see this. Let me think a minute how I can, I'm gonna ponder that while I put my, let me think how I can do this so that the back of it can be the fancy little thing that I saw another maker do. Okay, let's see. First, while I'm thinking on it, I'm going to trim off the little Simple Stories tab at the top. All right, so we already know that it's going to be, I can go ahead and cut the height off. That's not going to change. I'm not making a pocket page or anything. Why is this so much bigger? Oh, what in the world? This page has writing on it. Let's see if I can get it off. This, I think, came from a pack of scrapbook paper that I found at a thrift store. That's probably why, because I didn't do this. And if I've still got some ghosting, I can just use this can become a full page pocket or something if I need to make it. Yeah, it's gonna have some ghosting, sadly. Looks like somebody used it as a backdrop when they were measuring something else on top of it. Oh, there's more stray marks. That's why they call it a junk journal, because it's somebody else's cast off that you're using to create something with. All right, this is a good bit larger than this one, which is a little weird. So when I trim it, I'm gonna turn it that way. It's also wider. Interesting. So this is going to be 10 3/4 tall. All right, instead of hinging this, because I don't want the hinge to show on the first page of the journal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scoreboard. And I'm going to score it so that it will fold right at the width of the page size I want it to be. So to do that, where's my score tool? There it is. We're gonna go upside down with it because we're gonna go over 7 3/4. This is how wide we want this page to be. I'm actually scoring it the wrong way, but it'll still allow me to fold it. Okay, here's what we can do. I see what we're gonna do. Because this page had some stray marks, I'll be able to trim that off. I'm going to overlap this just enough. This is the way it goes. But I'm gonna leave, I'm not making this page. You know what? I may not do this fancy little edge on this one because I'm afraid if I do on a piece like this, let's see if I can do it on another. No, all of them are going to be pieced. I just need to decide if I want the sequin page to be on the first signature or not. You know what? Might as well. So let's see if I overlap it just enough to sew it together. I usually like to do about 1/2 inch for that, maybe a little more. I'm going to make a pencil mark to show me where to trim it. I'm not going all the way to the end because I'm doing that special little thing I was talking about, right? I'm going to cut it right there. Extra paper. I'm done with this for right now. Yep. So now I'm just going to glue this down to the other. Just enough to hold it so I can take it to the sewing machine. I'm not gluing it for permanence. And I usually sew a zigzag stitch when I do this. Let's see. Make sure we have it coming out the same on the top and the bottom. Nope. Yep, now it's even. Press that down, and then I'm going to run over to the sewing machine and sew this together. Okay, so now we have sewn together, and on the back side it looks like this. And then I'm going to add the decorative thing that I was talking to you about earlier. And after I do that, I will show you what I did, and then I'll link to the original creator of that idea, but not in this video. So now this one is ready. Let me just double check my measurements to make sure I did my math right. 7 3/4 by 10 3/4. It is ready. This is the cover of the first signature. All right, now we've gotten to the book pages. One of the book pages I'm going to use is a magazine page. Now these have a tendency to be fragile, especially when creased. So I'm going to crease this, but there is a slight chance we will need to bolster the crease with some washi tape or aged tape. But we'll see what happens. So this is from a McCall's magazine, and it's got this little coconut Santa and these yummy, yummy treats. Do you guys remember these? I cannot remember what they're called. Perils, something like that. Druggies? Is it druggies? I remember them being very popular when I was little, on top of cakes and stuff, and they were impossible to bite down on. In fact, I wonder how many molars were cracked with these. And I had them on my birthday cake one year, and my mom eventually just said, you know what, everybody take them off before you eat them. And it was like this big disappointment. And my grandma said one time, these are just meant for looking at, not for eating. And I was like, well, then why do they sell them for you to put on top of cakes? I was so confused. And I've noticed they don't sell them anymore. I guess so many people just were wondering, why would you put something on your food that can hurt you? So they're not real metal or anything, but they look like BBs. That's funny. If y'all know the history of druggies, let me know. Oh, the back of it has this ad for Yardley soaps. Do y'all know what those are? These were still popular in the 90s. I remember getting a Yardley peach and lavender set one year for Christmas. All right, so now folded in half, it's gonna fit, and it will fit going the other way, but I'm gonna trim off this raw edge, but I'm not gonna use my trimmer to do it because it will rip it up. I'm gonna just trim it by hand. It's not very straight, but better than ripping the page apart. All right, so this is ready. This is just a book page. here's another book page. This is from something called Christmas Annual. I think I've shown these before. I found this at a seminary library on a discard tray, or a cart rather. And it is a large page, so it's going to be perfect. It's a good size page. It's actually too tall. So let's trim it down a little bit. Well, I can't yet. I have to fold it so it'll fit in my trimmer. But this icy blue image with the icicles on the tree is just really nice. It needs to be 7 3/4. Make sure I'm not cutting off any text. Actually, I think I might be. Oh no, I was not right. That's not right. 10 3/4. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it's ready to go in like this. In fact, I probably didn't need to trim off as much as I did. All right, book page. Next book page is another large page from a Christmas decorations from Williamsburg. And this was the chapter title page, so we have a lot of white space for writing. So it's basically a book page and a writing page in one. And it is just ready to fold because it fits underneath our parameters. It's a glossy page, which I think can be kind of fun for writing on. I like writing on glossy pages, especially with a regular old ballpoint pen. It's just so satisfying. It just glides right across it. Then we have another hinge. This is a page from a folk songbook, and this is a page from Jolly Old St. Nicholas, which was an Ideals publication, and the images are very surreal. I don't know, they're just interesting. So this fits in. No, it doesn't. This needs to be trimmed a little bit. We'll trim this side. Unfortunately, I had to cut the artist off, but. And 10 3/4 tall. Needs a little more trimming. I think I'll trim the top. Okay. This one I'm just gonna neaten up. I hope this cuts okay. Yeah, this is a little bit of a textured paper, so I was a little nervous. Oh, and it needs a little bit of trim too. All right, let's hinge these. It's okay if you hinge pages that are not the same, width, if they're not going to be next to each other in the book, or even if they are. Yeah, let's hinge these. What is on the back? Dark blue and white. What if we just do this? Oops. I've never seen Santa's sleigh be portrayed as purple before. Unless that's supposed to be red. But I think it's purple. Make sure it's not too, I'll have to trim it a little more. Sometimes it just, after you hinge them, you just have to trim it a little bit more again. Yeah, I'll use my scissors for that. That is not much. Book page. And one more hinge of book pages. This is from the family Christmas book that I've used the cover for. But this is another case where it's a book page, but also a writing page. So that'll be nice. 7 3/4 wide. I'm gonna have to trim a good bit off. And 3/4. I didn't have to cut off any graphics though. That's great. And this one is going to have to be cut widthwise too. But I'm not going to cut it off from this side because the hinge will cover part of this page up and I don't want to lose any of the text. Look at this. Messy edge again. The other one did great. I wonder if it's paper quality. I think I want to hinge this side because I've got more space to work with. Same here. We're going to do it like this. I try my best not to have anything cut off. I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to pause it real quick and go put my bread in the oven. I'm going to trim this just a wee bit. These pages are slightly larger than the hinge, but that's okay. Unless I measured wrong. That's also possible. Nope, it's just that page. But I'll double check everything before I put the pages in the book. It's better to be a little bit smaller than the book than be sticking out the top of the book. Yeah, I might trim this just to make it... No, it's right at 10 3/4. I think I'll leave it. And this is right at 7 3/4. Okay, now what I do is, just to keep things neat and tidy, I go ahead and put the signature together. So I have five book pages, the cover cardstock, an internal cardstock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 writing pages, a bag, a card, and the center. So we'll start with this, and I usually just open it up and hold it with one hand and just start adding in fun things. Trying to alternate as best I can. That's too much text together. Let's see. we'll do, I've got papers falling all over the place here. We'll do the onion skin typing paper. And then we'll do another book page. And then we'll do the back. And then we'll do a writing page. And then we'll do the cardstock. And another book page. And another writing page. And the greeting card. And another book page. Another writing page. Book page. Writing page. Sometimes you have to work with them a little bit again after the glue is dried. And then the center ideals page. So here is our finished, put together 15-page first signature, and I've left a gap here for the mysterious embellishment that I will be adding. So fun. Now, as you'll see, these are popping out a good bit, the center ones. So that's why you give yourself a little bit of allowance when you measure the spine to the edge of the book. Even then, sometimes depending on the width, the thickness of what you've put in here, this will still be sticking out too far from the book, and you'll just have to trim that off. That is something that's not easy to predict. You just kind of have to wait and see until you have the signature together. It tends to happen more when you hinge a lot of pages. That's what's bulking this center up, is all these hinges. So that might be something that I have to trim, but that's okay because I have some wiggle room to do that. All right, I hope that gives you an idea of my process for knowing what kind of pages to pick, and then how to think about putting them into an oversized book. I will show you when I do the flip throughs of the oversized book how the other two signatures look, because those have a little bit different components, and some of those will be fold outs and things like that. But this gives you at least a good way to start if you've never made an oversized or full-size journal, a full paper-sized journal. It's maybe making it not quite so scary. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next Process and Craft with Me video.